So here's a quick tutorial on how to start annotating a cell. Let's start by logging on to WEBKNOSSOS. And then on the dashboard, under annotations, you should see the annotation that you had copied to your account. Let's open it. And then we see this busy interface, and we learned that we can simplify it by maximizing one plane and bringing back our sidebar. Now, let's search for a particular cell. I'm going to search here for a cell. I'm going to do ARPA. That's a cell that I know of. And it located the cell right away, and it's under the gut folder. So this is a gut cell. Let's zoom in a little bit. And by now, after you've played around with looking at cells, you should know how to zoom in and out and move things around. We can see the dot or the point in the center of the nucleus of this cell. So here's the nucleus, first thing that stands out. And then you can sort of see the perimeter of the cell around here, more or less. In order to start annotating the cell, you go to another tab here in the sidebar called, or the side panel called segments. Segments are where we're going to find the things we annotate. Let's first get comfortable rolling up and down in the cell, getting an impression of it. Here's the nucleus. And then we're at the very beginning of the nucleus from the very bottom. Then we're going to go up to the middle. We can see the nucleolus, that darker region inside the nucleus. And then we go higher to the very end of the nucleus. We can go up and down in the nucleus like so. So now we want to label this and say, this is the nucleus. And here's how we do it. The first button that you're going to learn about is the Quick Select tool. You're going to end up using this one a lot. So if you click here, and then you click on the nucleus, it's going to label and select the entire area. Now, first things first. How do you undo something that is a mistake? There is an undo button right here, and that way you can undo your previous steps. Another way to label an area is to use the trace tool and accurately trace all around the area. And that's going to label it. This takes longer, of course, than the quick selection tool, but is more accurate if some things are too difficult for the quick select tool. So we've learned about this quick select button and also the outlining or the trace tool and how to undo anything we've done that we want to go back and fix. Before moving forward, it's very important that we organize the work we're doing throughout the semester. And so I'm going to take a pause from annotating and go to data organization. When we did our first click, this appeared in the side panel. And if you rewind and start again, you'll see that this appeared the moment I did that first click. By default, there's a root folder in which everything you're going to annotate will be in. But for us, we're going to have a particular kind of folder structure. The first thing you're going to do is to create a folder that is going to have all the annotations of your cell. So your cell has a name, and that will be the name of this first folder. So on my Mac, I click Control, and then I press Control and click, and I see Create New Group. That was by pressing the Control button and the mouse. And now it gives me a new folder called Group 1. I'm going to edit the group name and call it instead EARPA, which is the name of my cell. Now, all of the work you do will be in the folder of the name named according to the cell you've adopted. So in this case, the cell is called EARPA, so that's the name of this folder. The second thing is that all the segments, which is a term used for the parts of the cell you actually label, we're not going to name them segment 1 all the way, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. We're going to rename them according to what we're annotating. And so segment 1 is going to become nucleus. Like so. Next, we need to get this segment called nucleus inside the folder of our cell. So let's click again on this folder. And there's no drag and drop, unfortunately, in WEBKNOSSOS. Instead, you have to use another way. So if you press Control and the mouse, you will see an option, Move Active Segments Here. What's an active segment? An active segment is the segment you are actually working on. Right now we're working on the nucleus, and so you have this paintbrush next to it, meaning this is the segment we are working with. When you annotate many things in your cell, you're going to have a long list of segments, but only one of them will have a paintbrush, the active segment. And so if I do press Control and my mouse button, and I move the active segments here, suddenly nothing happens. Suddenly, oh, if I check this box, and so if I highlight the segment I'm working with by clicking on it, and it has a paintbrush, then I can then press Control and the mouse button. On the folder, I want to move a segment to, and then choose Move Active Segment Here. And there you go. I believe if you highlight multiple segments with your mouse and do the same thing, they'll all move at once. We'll try that when we have more than one segment. But for now, we have the proper organization of our data. It's very important that you do this because you're going to have so many features in the cell. Each one has to be named accordingly and in the folder of your cell, so that when all the data is combined, each cell has its own features in its folder. Now that we've organized our folder structure, let's go back into annotating the nucleus. Let's focus on the nucleus. So let's use this Move tool to bring it in the center. And let's zoom in a little bit more, because that's all we're caring about at the moment, the nucleus. And go back to our Quick Select tool. If I click Quick Select, let's try something cool here. If I click in the center, the tool will think I want you to label the nucleolus, when in fact I want the entire nucleus. It's a quick tool, but it's not 100% correct. You have to be critical with how it's selecting. So instead of doing undo and clicking again on the outside the nucleolus so that everything is highlighted, you can do the following. You can click once, it does half of the job, and then you can click outside and it realizes, oh, I should have done more. And you can keep on filling in any gaps by clicking on those gaps. And then the quick tool is going to fill it out. Let's keep this folder open so that we see we're working on this segment right here. Now, by moving up and down in the nucleus, the next slice will not be labeled. So you're going to also click, and it's going to get labeled. And then if you go a little bit more, you can label another one. But you can imagine you have so many slices you have to go through. And maybe because it's abruptly jump slices, you're going to miss some in the middle. And that might be a little bit frustrating. Luckily, there's a very clever tool called interpolate, which on the top bar, if you move to the left, to the right, you'll see this interpolate current segment between last labeled and current slice. This is a really funky tool. So let's see how it works. If I label this slice, the nucleus in this slice, and then I go up a little bit and label this one, and then I click interpolate, it interpolates everything in between those two. So it saves you a lot of time. And so I can jump a little bit, click here, and then interpolate, go a little bit higher, click, label the nucleus, interpolate, go a little bit higher, click, interpolate, a little bit higher, interpolate, and do that a few more times. What it's going to do is that it's going to automatically segment all the slices in between those layers without me having to do it myself. Let's do this one too. And now let's do the final one for the nucleus. When you get to the very end of a feature, it gets really small, quick select sometimes messes up. So let's try this. It did an okay job, I'll take that. And I won't push my luck and go even higher, but let's go the other direction. So you can see that a lot of the slices got automatically labeled because of the interpolate function. And then if you get to the other half of the nucleus and you do the same thing, keep on clicking a layer and interpolating. Oops, a little bit too much. You can't go too far, otherwise you see it's inactive here because I left too many gaps in the middle. Let's see, interpolate, and let's do a little bit more, interpolate, and here the nucleus is finished. Let's take this one as the last slice of the nucleus. Now I think I can do better than that. Let me do one more. Here we go, very beginning of the nucleus. I see it, I see it. Come on, come on, come on. Here we go. Let's take this one as the very other end of the nucleus. Okay, didn't like that. Maybe I need to do one more so that it interpolates between them. Here we go. Click. It's not letting me interpolate for some reason. Let's see, maybe it doesn't like. Maybe I didn't leave anything in between them. Let's take now a stroll through the nucleus and see if everything is labeled. Let's start from here and go up. I'll come back to that. And you can see that all the slices have been labeled now, thanks to this interpolate button, which saved you a lot of time. Here you can see this interpolation wasn't really that good because it left quite some area in the nucleus. So we simply click on it, and now it becomes labeled, and you can interpolate again to make sure it takes that into account when it for other slices in its vicinity. So you can see that there are some imperfections here, and so you can go carefully, find those gaps, and fill them in, and interpolate. And you want to strike a good balance between being accurate and thorough, but not being impractical in terms of how perfect you want it to be. There's a lot to do, and this is, I would say, is a decent annotation of this nucleus. Oops, I can see a halo here that I don't like, and I think I can fix that. Here's one. I would say this is a reasonable amount of sort of accuracy and diligence, not being careless, but at the same time, not going crazy and spending more time than one should on an organelle or a feature of the cell. Now this is going to bug me because I see a halo And I wonder if let's see. I think I fixed it by clicking interpolate again. And here we have our nucleus. Now let me show you a really cool feature. If we go back to all the three different planes, and then this box over here, let's zoom in on where our cell is. Control like this. Okay. Now, if you go to these three dots next to the name of your segment and choose Compute Mesh, you're going to get a reconstruction in 3 dimensions of the nucleus that you just annotated. And I think that's really cool. So let's get this plane out of the way so we can just look at this. And let's actually maximize this tab. And maybe we can zoom out a little bit so we see the entire embryo. This is the only thing annotated so far, so it's the only mesh, three-dimensional reconstruction. But then you can start to look at it in 3 dimensions and rotate it and look at this nucleus that you just annotated in your cell. When you annotate more features of the cell, you're going to start to have this 3-dimensional reconstruction of the cell that you've annotated. Now, where's my cell? Let's find it again. Here it is. You can find it 2 ways, either by zooming out and then going up and down until you start to see your annotation, and then you can zoom in again. Another feature, which is that you can simply click on it. Now, I've noticed that this is buggy, so if I click here, it's supposed to take me to my cell. Sometimes it takes me somewhere else. I've already contacted WEBKNOSSOS with a video showing them this glitch. If it happens to you, you can just zoom out. If it's taking you somewhere else, you can just zoom out and then find your cell this way. So this is how you annotate a feature in your cell. This is how you segment. Remember, the data structure has to be organized. Under root, make a folder with the name of your cell, and under the cell, you're going to start to add new features. Next time, we're going to annotate something other than the nucleus. Let's say I want to annotate this feature. Now you have to start a new segment to annotate that. And we'll learn how to do that in the next tutorial. Actually, the next tutorial is how to share your data. And then we'll start to look at more segments. But for now, this tutorial should allow you to find your cell and start to annotate. And let's start by annotating the nucleus.